Okay. So welcome to, what are we, week 6 or 7 of this this part of the wintering season. So we're moving into spring, it's getting lighter, and I mean, hopefully the intention is that um, you're you're feeding on your reserves, that you're not completely running on empty, because that can be the danger at this time of year for us, and is often a reason why there can be lots of flus and colds and coughs, because we're run down. So kind of before in the autumn is a time of preparation for the quiet of winter, and would traditionally in nature be a time to be harvesting, to be putting things to the side, so we've got reserves for the winter. And in the same way, practicing these mindfulness and compassion focused practices allow us to kind of build our emotional reserves that support our well-being. Our immune system functions much better if we're not stressed. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling you've got some reserve left, and if not, then hopefully after this session you will have um, filled yourself up. So today we're going to be doing a breathing practice. You can do this practice, ideally it would be sitting, but lying down can be helpful as well, particularly if you're quite tired. Lie down, because then you can really focus. It won't be as frustrating. And we're going to begin by, just to warn you before, we're going to begin by physically stressing ourselves out. Okay, so that we can physically drop into the body and notice what stress feels like, without it being a mental stress, but what the body goes through. So I'm just going to lead you through some breath practices, and then we're moving into observing how our breath impacts our heart rate. So the quicker that we breathe, the faster our heart rate is, and the slower that we breathe, we can slow our heart down, which if any of you have issues around blood pressure, these techniques can be really useful. Okay, that's the blurb over. Let's settle in. So just taking a moment to settle and have a sense of arriving, of having taken your seat. So making any adjustments that you need. If you're sitting, you ideally want your hips higher than your knees. You want your feet flat on the floor if you're on a chair. You want to picture somebody pulling you up by the crown of your head. So a dignified and graceful posture. And we'll check in with ourselves as we go along, because we do have a tendency to slump. That's perfectly normal. And now an invitation to just check for any points of tension. Shining the spotlight of your awareness around your body and just noticing, is your jaw clenched? Are you clenching your hands? Are your shoulders up by your ears? And an invitation to make any adjustments that might be helpful, letting go of that bracing that we can fall into, these habits of holding and clenching and tightening. You may find it helpful to smooth the brow of your forehead physically. So slowly bringing your hands to your forehead and just smoothing those lines from the middle of the forehead out. Perhaps squeezing those eyebrows and that little bit in between that we clench when we're concentrating. And moving down to the cheeks, Just a little squidge, just a little gentle massage. And then moving to the jaw. I don't know if any of you grind your teeth or clench your jaw when you're stressed. It's kind of a way of us holding our tongue, holding things in. So let's release some of that tension. And then moving down to the neck. Again, another hot spot. And then the shoulders. A little massage, just a little squeeze. And it's in these moments where we go, gosh, why don't I do this more regularly? Just taking 1 minute to give my muscles a little bit of a break. And then moving into stillness. And now we've released some tension, we're going to invite some back in. Just a little reminder to follow my guidance only if it feels right for you. Within these sessions, we're learning to listen and pay attention to our bodies. So if you prefer your eyes closed or open, you can be playful with that. If the body feels like it needs to move, then move the body, weaving the movements into the practice. Perhaps noticing if you criticize yourself, we're noticing there's no wrong or right way of doing these practices. We're practicing dropping out of the prefrontal cortex, that front of the brain that is on constant alert, the thinking part of our brain, into the bodies and learning to listen and pay attention to them. So with that in mind, this stressful breath that we're going to be practicing. Okay, so before we begin, being careful, if in any way this isn't helpful, you stop. Okay, we're going to do this 3 times. So we're going to breathe in for the count of 3. So following my lead, in, 1, 2, 3, out, 1, 2, 3, in, 1, 2, 3, out, 1, 2, 3, in, 1, 2, 3, out, 1, 2, 3. And you're welcome to carry on with that for a few more breaths, or returning your breath to its natural rhythm. And dropping your attention into your body, what can you notice? Your heart rate might have increased slightly. The tone of my voice, a bit more firm than usual. The body experiences this stress in different ways. What can you notice, if anything? Maybe you breathe in this way all the time. Maybe this feels normal. Well, let's move into the antidote. So an invitation to breathe into the count of 4 and breathe out to the count of 5. Breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 5. Maybe being playful with this and breathing into the count of 5, breathing out to the count of 6. Maybe breathing in for 5 and out for 7 or 8. Being playful and curious and interested in your experience, of exploring the extension of your out breath in comparison to the in breath. And then letting go of counting and moving into a rhythm that feels calm and comfortable. Perhaps bringing your awareness to those pauses in between the in breath and the out breath where you're neither breathing in nor breathing out. When we move our breath into this calm and comfortable, soothing rhythm, we activate our parasympathetic nervous system, allowing ourselves to drop into the rest and restoration part of our body's physiology, healing, the clearing up and the cleansing. We began with activating our sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight-flight process of the body, bracing ourselves to get away from danger. So when we breathe in this way, we can reassure our bodies that we're not in danger. There are no lions, bears or tigers. Soothing and calming ourselves, letting ourselves know that we're okay. For now, we're okay. And if you feel you've settled into that breath and to that rhythm, an invitation to expand your awareness from the breath to include all of the body. An invitation to check in on any points of tension or tightening that may have crept in. Elongate that spine. Drop those shoulders. Release the tension in your forehead and jaw. And then an invitation to shine the spotlight of your awareness around your body and just check in with yourself. Are there any points of discomfort that are perhaps standing out? Are there any sensations that you can notice? Maybe little tickle somewhere or somewhere that would appreciate being itched. Just resisting for a moment adjusting or scratching. An invitation to just for a moment bring your awareness to the sensations. So if you had to describe them, what words would you use? Does it have a shape? Does it have a colour? Maybe a sound or even a taste? And where does the sensation finish? Is it all over the body, or is there a point at which it sort of disappears? Like as if we were blending colours and the colours got sort of fade out. Or if we were rolling out pastry and as thin as we could, starting from the middle and heading out, getting it as thin as we can towards the end. Where does it end? Where does the sensation end, if it does? Does it pulse? Does it throb? Is it warm? Is it cold? Does it perhaps have a dry sensation or a moist, squidgy sensation? Is it slimy? When we drop into the body and explore sensations in this way, we increase our emotional literacy, our ability to drop into the sensation and the direct experience, leaving behind the story, dropping into what the body notices. We're being an impartial witness to ourselves. And an invitation to move, scratch the itch. Readjust your posture if it's uncomfortable, weaving those movements into the practice. Or you can stay and explore and be playful and curious and interested in what it is to be you. Whilst the mind probably interrupts and tells you there are far more interesting things that you could be thinking about or exploring, shopping lists, things that you forgot to do this morning, things that you need to do later. And each time you notice that your mind has done that, gently but firmly bringing yourself back to your body or your breath. And a moment to congratulate yourself for noticing that the mind has wandered and done what it does. We get to observe our habits and tendencies when we sit in this way. And it's not a moment to criticise or judge ourselves, it's just noticing and acknowledging and accepting our experiences just as they are, just for the space of this session. And it's in this noticing that this grey matter builds up, these new neural pathways that can support us outside of the practice. In this noticing and coming back over and over. We don't need to change or fix anything, we're simply being with ourselves as we are. And so now that we've brought our attention to sort of noisy part of the body, I want you to find somewhere really quiet that you can hardly notice. Maybe a little toe or your earlobe, somewhere that goes mainly unnoticed in your life, part of the body that you bring very little attention to. Once you've found somewhere, I want you to bring like a magnifying glass of your attention here. What, if anything, can you notice? Can you notice air against this part of the body, or the fabric of clothes, or contact with the earth? Does it feel warm or cold? And if you can't feel anything, what is this nothingness of this part of the body that's there, getting on with whatever it needs to do? There'll be some nerves and skin and bits and bobs going on here. You may have chosen an organ of the body that you don't notice. The body is unsentimental and can only be in the present moment. So what is its experience right now of this very quiet part of the body? Being interested, perhaps turning towards this part of the body with some kindness, a recognition that it's like the good child in the class who goes unnoticed. In a class of 28 children, there may be 3 who are naughty and they get all the attention. So we're noticing one part of our body that's very quiet, doesn't give us any bother for the most part of the time. Just noticing how challenging it is, but how interesting it is, being curious. And then an invitation to return your awareness back to the breath, just noticing what's happened to the rhythm. Perhaps taking some time to extend that out breath. And then checking that you've not brought any tightening, clenching or bracing back into the body. So a quick check with the head, forehead, the jaw, shoulders, wherever you found your tension creeping in earlier. Or maybe you're taking a moment to notice that it's not crept back in. And then when you're ready, expanding your awareness to your breath within your body as a whole. And let's expand or narrow our awareness, to another part of the body that's giving us lots of information. It's easy to find. When we sit in stillness, these can kind of creep in quite easily. So discomforts, tickles, tingles. What can you notice of the sensations? Where do they begin and where do they end? The shape, the colours or colour. Is it like a solid sort of sensation where it would be like maybe like a rock or an icicle or a flame that moves? Is it a constant, or does it pulse, throb? Is it like waves? Each time the mind wanders, bringing yourself back to the direct and felt experience of the sensation. Once we've turned down the stimulus from the outside world and we're turning up the volume of the information of our bodies, bringing an attitude of curiosity and kindness, that childlike quality that we seem to lose along the way, of the sensations within our body and the information we can gather from this space that houses who we are and holds our stories and our experiences. This body that goes fairly unnoticed unless it's giving us these sensations of discomfort or pleasure. And then, just as we brought our attention to this noisier part of the body, we're going to widen it again back to the body as a whole, having a sense of breathing in the space, breathing out of this space. Breathing in, breathing out, checking in with your posture, letting go of any tension that may have crept in. Being an impartial witness to yourself. Now an invitation to narrow your awareness to somewhere quiet again. Somewhere neutral. Being interested. These small parts of our body that go unnoticed. What can you notice here? If anything. And if you can't notice anything, what's this nothingness? This calm part of the body. Quiet. Just getting on with it. Can you notice the contact with the earth or fabric of clothes? Maybe some warmth or coolness, heaviness, lightness, tingling. Maybe there's a fleeting awareness and then it disappears. Noticing. Breathing in and breathing out. Noticing this quiet part of our bodies. And now returning your awareness to your breath, breathing in, breathing out, checking in with your posture. Let's bring our awareness to our head, our scalp, our face, our ears, our jaw. Checking in with what's quiet, bringing your awareness to what's difficult to notice. And then down to the throat. We're looking for the quietness, discomfort, or sensations may be there, but we're exploring around the edges of that, just for now. And then your arms, widening the lens of your attention to the quiet parts. Armpits, the crease at your elbow. And these may not be quiet, but checking in with each nook and cranny. And then up the arms to the upper chest and upper back, down to the middle back and the belly and the pelvis, the lower back and the buttocks. Exploring your trunk area for quiet areas. And then down to the hips and the thighs, the knees and the calves, the legs. Where's quiet here? Into the ankles and the feet. And then bringing your awareness back to your body as a whole in this sense of breathing here. Breathing in and breathing out. Just resting in stillness for a few moments longer. I'm going to read from Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Catherine May. This chapter is March, so we're in March today, and it's titled Survival. As a child, I had a copy of Aesop's fable of the ant and the grasshopper in a shiny yellow hardback. It told the story of a rather easygoing grasshopper who spends the summer watching ants labour away to store food for winter. Meanwhile, he lazes in the sun and strums his guitar. He was, in my edition, an artefact of his time, the very picture of the work-shy hippie, presumably conjured up in the decade before I was born to illustrate the perils of the urge to turn on, tune in, and drop out. In my memory, and it will remain a memory because I can no longer find the book, he has a little banter with the ant while he watches the intense effort going on around him. Hey dude, why so busy? Why not just enjoy the beautiful summer? The ant's answer becomes clear only when winter comes and the grasshopper is starving and huddling away against the encroaching winds. The wise do not have time for the trivialities of leisure. They are engaged in the business of survival. I now know that this version has been expanded a great deal from the Aesopian original, which is the compact to the point of brutality. Here we don't encounter the grasshopper's summer at all, but are landed straight in his winter, where the ants are busy drying grain that they have stored since the summertime. The grasshopper merely passes by and, starving, begs for food. In George Flyer Townsend's translation, published in the mid-19th century, the ants, who speak as a collective, are blunt in their reply. Why did you not treasure up food during the summer, they ask. I had not leisure enough, says the grasshopper. I passed the days in singing. If you were foolish enough to sing all the summer, scoff the ants, you must dance supperless to bedtime in the winter. Even as a child, I remember being outraged by the ants' behaviour. It seemed like the moral of the story was wrong. I still feel the shock of it now, the brutality of those ants and the simple need of the grasshopper. He was, after all, done only what a grasshopper is supposed to do, sing, and the ants in turn had fulfilled their own biological imperative. At worst, he has made a simple mistake, which is unlikely to be repeated again, but it always struck me that the ants had missed an opportunity to make a productive trade, the entertainment of singing grasshopper while they worked in return for a small amount of food in the winter. Skipping forward here. The grasshopper is a symbolic of such an array of folk devils that it's difficult to know where to start. His identity shifts, I suspect, with each generation, each social class, each town, or each city feeling its own threats. The ants, meanwhile, are static. They are the simple, understanding citizens who behave themselves. They save for rainy days instead of relying on the handouts of others. They keep themselves to themselves and look after their own. They are a projection of how we so often think we ought to live, but also a model for life we collectively fail to achieve over and over again, across the entire history of humanity. The ants are not real, not on a mass scale. They are an if only. If only everyone could be the ants. If only we were all so forward-thinking and responsible. If only the grasshoppers of this world could be so simply dispatched. I will give you an alternative if only. If only life was so stable, happy, and predictable as to produce ants instead of grasshoppers year in, year out. The truth is that we all have an ant years and grasshopper years, years in which we are able to prepare and save, and years where we need a little extra help. Our true flaw lies not in failing to store up enough resources to cope with the grasshopper years, but in believing that each grasshopper year is an anomaly visited only on us due to our unique human failings. So moving and stretching in whatever way your body may have been asking you to do that you ignored. I always hear lots of crunching. I've left my microphone on so you can hear it. And we'll move into taking tea together. So this acts as a transition, a mindful moment, and something that we can weave into our days if we take some time. And a cup of tea, even a glass of water. And today, if you don't have tea, I'm serving you the Whittard's Piccadilly blend. It's the Alice in Wonderland. And it's floral. So sounds, smells, tastes, colours. The movements that you automatically know how to make. I've unpinned myself so those in the live session should be able to see each other on a grid. Okay, so I'm gonna pause the recording now. So the invitation for the next week is for you to have a go with that awful breath of the 3 in and the 3 out. Doing that 3 times is 3 to 5 times is enough. You don't need to you don't need to really stress your body out. But notice if you do have a tendency to want to push yourself to the extremes, because it can release endorphins and things on another level. Anyway, so try that breath 3 to 5 times and then practice doing a breathing in and then extending that out breath for whatever rhythm works for you afterwards over the coming week. So that's your home practice, and you can do that breath for that longer breath for as little or as long as you have enough time for. But let's close with a short breathing space. So this is the bread and butter practice, and it's somewhere that you can hopefully do anywhere. So just to begin with, bringing your awareness to your body, checking in with your posture, points of contact that you're making with the earth. And now an invitation to narrow your awareness to your breath, not changing the rhythm, simply breathing in and out, following 3 breaths. And then expanding your awareness from the breath to include all of your body. And then an invitation to place a hand on your heart and one on your belly. And you can say these words internally or out loud. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. And may I be kind to myself and to others. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. And may I be kind to myself and to others. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. And may I be kind to myself and to others. And just taking a moment to consider what you need to do next. What does your body need? Do you need to eat or drink, go for a walk, go to the toilet, put some moisturiser on? What's your body asking of you that you may have ignored? Maybe some stretching. And may this sense of connection and awareness stay with you. So, an invitation to take exquisite care of yourselves over the following week. I will see you next week.
Thank you very much, Josephine. It was lovely.
Bye. Take care.